Hi, I'm Darren Long from Delta Harbour Assets. And this week's Hard Money Show, we're going to hit the hard topic of interest rates. In the U.S., we just saw them go up, and we also saw the GDP report come in 2 negative quarters. Is it a recession? Let's tackle that topic and talk about how gold and silver fits in. We're coming up with Hard Money right now.
There are no shortcuts to building wealth today. It takes time, effort, sacrifice, and diversification. But today, diversification means something different than it did in the past. You deserve a more secure way to protect and grow your wealth. At Delta Harbour, we take this to heart. Our mission is to help by inviting you to add physical gold and silver to your wealth strategy. Book a free consultation today and let us show you how to protect and grow your wealth through the ownership of physical gold and silver. Let us show you the Delta difference. Hey, everybody. We're back and welcome. It is that time for the Hard Money Podcast. As we record this, we're heading into the August long weekend. Summer's over. Darren, what's going on, buddy? Look, it's always a good time to expand your portfolio and start doing things correctly. How do you do that? You get some physical metals on your side in your portfolio. Physical metals, the stuff that you can drop on the table and break a fingernail, hurt a toe, whatever. Just store it, stash it. We're going to give you all different ways to get a hold of these metals as part of your portfolio, your investment portfolio moving ahead for your later years. Hang on to it and be glad that you did. 1-877-323-GOLD is how you do that. Delta Harbour with a U, deltaharbor.com. If you want to carry on online to begin dipping your toe and investing that way. I want to remind you as well, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, all other social media, the podcast, your favorite podcast, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Google Podcasts, always available. Darren, good to have you here, pal. Hard Money Podcast again for this week. Looking forward to this. Lots of stuff going on. I know here it comes. The Feds in the U.S., another rate hike announced this week. Another 75 basis points. In addition to this, they announced second quarter of contraction or negative GDP growth, which basically means by textbook definition that the U.S. is in no recession officially. What do you think? I'm assuming Canada will follow like we always do in the next couple of weeks because they're the big brother. But what does that mean for real assets like gold and silver, all this crazy stuff in the news?
Well, welcome everyone once again to another show with us here at Delta. And John, sure, textbook definition recession, but again, they will not admit it. They won't admit it. They'll revise, because it's very close to zero, which would mean it's not negative or positive. But right. That being said, yeah, we got another 75 basis points. So raising the interest rates in the U.S., which is going to kill the housing market there as well, which is already doing. And we're going to follow suit. So, stay the course. I mean, in terms of being a precious metals investor, because as you'll see, the response immediately within the first 24 hours of that is that gold and silver are both up, and they continue to rally hard today as we tape here on Thursday of this week. And if you're like us, you're watching and seeing it unfold in real time. I mean, this is just the way it goes for some people, especially those in seemingly gold and silver markets. They seem to be a little more attentive, a little more aware of that, but our expectation hasn't changed. It remains exactly the same. We expect to witness for the first time since, let's say, the 1970s, about a stagflation here. Again, I don't know how deep a recession we're going to have, whether it's going to be short one or long. I mean, the Fed has some tools at their disposal, and one of them is money printing, and they've been good at it. They've effectively, and every central bank around the world that matters anyways, has effectively been able to pull the wool over everyone's eyes. The bullshit continues, right? Yep. And we think that the keeping up with the Jones, it's been tough over the last decade. Wait for the next decade. I mean, it's going to be virtually impossible. That being said, the move by the U.S. Central Bank kind of cements another hike by the Bank of Canada right after Labor Day. Maybe a half point, maybe 75 basis points. It would not surprise me at all because, of course, inflation here is also rampant at this particular time. And what you'll hear is the pundits out there telling you to stay the course in terms of your paper shit assets. They're going to tell you to just don't bother. Just hold on, stay the course. Equities will return and rebound. They will, but I don't like losing money in the meantime. It's just the way I am. It's the mentality I was raised with, right? I mean, I don't want to sit there on the sidelines and let somebody else be responsible. So I take charge of my own wealth strategy. I tell everybody to do the same damn thing, because people out there don't realize the detriment in this type of environment that this causes when you allow somebody else to keep their finger on the pulse for you. It's bullshit. You're not paying them enough to do it, right?
Yeah.
They're getting their salary of 150 grand a year to be money managers, and maybe more than that. And they might get to 3%, 5%, 10% of their client base on a weekly basis. If they're lucky, maybe you get one call a year from your planner or advisor. It's bullshit when you're paying them to watch your money and they're never in touch. And it's the same story we hear time and time again, the same thing. They take the money and they run. And that's the stupidity of this market and the mentality that we've allowed ourselves to let that happen. Money is the most important thing, hands down. I can't live without it. I can't live happily without it. If you tell me you can, okay, well, there are odd exceptions. Maybe those are folks that have never experienced what it feels like to be able to tell your kids that they can go to university, or that you can get them a car so they can get from A to B, or that maybe it's nice to take that trip up to the near north and be able to stay in the nice resort versus having to stay in the motel. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. You know, I'm not talking about material wealth and having to go and buy the next purse for your wife, or if you want a new car and you want, it's your fifth car. I mean, I'm not talking about that kind of material wealth. That's a whole nother level. I'm just talking about being able to do the nice things, right? You want to buy a cottage? Do you want to have a boat and a sea-doo? Do you want to be able to go fishing? Do you want to be able to enjoy yourselves? Do you want to be able to take that trip to Europe every few years and let the kids experience the world? You need money to do that. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, John, what's happening with this economy is that as these interest rates rise and as this economy kind of collapses in on itself a little bit, I mean, we haven't seen a lot yet. This is a little bit. This is the tip of the iceberg. We are going to reach into our coffers of credit money deeper and deeper. And lo and behold, this week, Better Dwelling reports that, of course, Canadians are withdrawing from their HELOCs at the fastest rate in history.
Wow.
So yeah, people are going to pull from the money that's not theirs. Where the hell are you going to get the extra income to cover that? Right? What baby boomers behind you, right? We're losing the older generation bit by bit, and that money's being spent. And now our generation in the 40 somethings, almost 50, they're going into their HELOCs and borrowing to make the kitchen upgrade, to make the basement upgrade, to buy that extra car, to pay for that extra trip. And that to me is just absolute, it's a death sentence, because you have to invest wisely, live within your means, but bulk it up, get better at something. So the move by the U.S. Central Bank cements another hike for sure. Labor Day comes, we're going to get a 0.5 point, 75, maybe even a full point. I don't know. The chartered bank prime at that point in time in Canada is going to rise to around 5.2%, give or take 50, 75, 1 point, could be slightly higher. Variable rate mortgages, which is going to be the death of people, I'm telling you right now, they're going to be about 4 3/4, 4.75, maybe a little bit higher. And the stress test hurdle for you to be able to get a mortgage is going to be 7 to 8%. So you better be prepared for that as a home buyer if you need a house. Otherwise, think about renting right now. It's the smart time. Yes, rentals are expensive, and we know this, but at least you can come and go as you please, and you keep some of that powder dry and invest in it when those housing markets do drop and peel off. But as for HELOCs, they're going to move to around 5.5, 5.7, 5.8% or more by Labor Day. And that's, to me, is total death, because that's just borrowing against your own wealth. And, you got to make sure you're in a great position to know that more income is coming down the road. Otherwise, you're screwed. So for us, it's simple, John. Gold and silver, as well as mining stocks, they've started to move. Just small moves over the last 24, 48 hours. It doesn't cement anything. There's nothing major right here on the horizon. We're still in the summer doldrums for gold and silver over the last 30 years. That's the buy range, right? So those are one of the two best times of the year to buy those metals. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't surprise me that we saw a dip during July, and it doesn't surprise me that it peeled back. It doesn't surprise me that the pundits are out there talking about gold going to 1,300 or 1,200 or 1,000, or even silver to $10 an ounce. But again, my personal belief that that's not going to happen. I mean, look at the world. Look at how messed up this world is. Look at financially what we're doing. We're not living within our means. We're buying homes that are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times the amount of income that we have. And if you look, looking at a chart today. I'll post it on our Twitter account. But if you look at the rise in home values over the last 3-4 years in Canada versus the rise in disposable income is literally flat, just with a slight tick up. The other is right straight up. Home prices go straight up. How are we going to recover from that? That gap is so massive, John. And so we think that one of the ways you can do that is to own assets like gold and silver. And that's where you have to start. Right now, gold is trading in the 1760 range. It's up about 2% on the day, and silver up around 1975, up around 3% on the day. So a nice day for both, but in the grand scheme of things, just a great moment, a window of time to get in and get started and get stacking here right now.
Again, 1-877-323 gold to get that happening. Yeah, the old HELOC, the line of credit, we call that the never plan. Never do it because you'll never pay it off, right? So stay away from that at all costs. Just use whatever income you have, savings, whatever. I don't know. It's just trying to rein people in on their spending, I guess sometimes, Darren, it's pretty impossible. But rate hikes, you mentioned that, Labor Day being the clarion call for the end of rate hikes, so you don't think that's likely? It's going to keep going?
Not likely, in our opinion. That's not going to be the end, John. Yeah, they're going to go higher. Remember, the government doesn't want to admit they're the best bullshitters of the pile, right? The government doesn't want to admit, because this is a political thing. You don't want to get negative feedback from your constituents and let alone be voted out. Trudeau's on his way out whenever that election happens. That fellow allowed some real major things to happen. And, his legacy will be the memory of COVID and what he didn't do and how Canadians had to pay for it dearly, especially the ones that work hard. The people who buy gold and silver, hardest working people in the world. I mean, I've never met a crew more hardworking and dedicated, blue collar, white collar, business owners, entrepreneurs, moms, dads, doctors, dentists, just real hard working, salt of the earth people that have common sense that the average person might not have. But, we, along with a lot of market pundits right now, John, expect one more increase at least this year before the Bank of Canada might stop to take a pause and see how things settle. Because don't forget, who wants to raise rates coming into the Christmas break, right? Santa Claus gets real pissed off when you make it more expensive to shop. So again, they don't want that to happen. And as I said, it's already a falling wedge for the Trudeau camp, and I expect that to continue, and his cronies, and it's going to make his legacy worse than it's already going to be. So if inflation remains high, we for certain see, I would say, at least another interest rate hike in the first quarter. Could be a small one, could be 25, 50 basis points, but it'll depend on where we are. But thinking or expecting rates to halt or stop or make a decision to buy something as stupid as real estate right now, in the expectation that interest rates aren't going to go higher, could be probably the biggest single terrible decision you can make for yourself right now, because it's not realistic to think rates are coming down. They will flatline. And believe me, it's exactly what governments want. Don't try to convince yourself otherwise. They will tell you there's no recession. There is a recession. They'll tell you if stagflation hits, that there's no such thing as stagflation. There will be. I mean, just think about it from a common sense perspective. You can't keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and taking money and printing money hand over fist for a decade or more, 2 decades. In the last 7 years, remind the Canadian people watching this that Trudeau has printed more money in that 7-8 year span than all other prime ministers in the entirety of our history combined. So you got to pay for that. And that's going to take a smart approach. One of the things that central banks around the world are doing is they're bulking up on their gold holdings. They've been doing it since 2009. The G20 have been net buyers, except for Canada, because of course we have this stupid mentality that gold isn't a real world tier 1 asset when the rest of the world treats it that way. And I think Canada just sometimes we're called the happy country, John. I think sometimes it should be called the naive country. Because we let too much get by. We let too much happen under our watch and say nothing about it because we're happy and content. In fact, we even apologize for it. Sometimes we even say we're sorry, but that's the truth, John. They don't want it higher. Normalized rates are necessary so they can pour on more stimulus if necessary, right? So they're going to keep the rates high so that in the event they need to print more money, they can go right to it and say, hey, the interest rates are really high. Now we can bring them down, print a ton of money, get everybody excited again, and let's dip into credit and more credit and more credit and spend more money we don't have so we can inflate all the shit around us that we have to buy and live in this bullshit world of expectations. When in reality, if you just had a balanced and diversified approach, if you tuned out all the white noise, you added assets like gold and silver, raw land, something to develop, something that has value long term, you're going to be perfectly fine.
We find ourselves once again, Darren, asking a comparison question about our wealth strategy. You do this every show, but I know what you think. But so our listeners are clear, these higher rates almost certainly make home investments a bad thing right now, correct? A lot of people are going to shake their heads and say, no, I disagree, but especially versus holding gold and silver in its place. Again, this could be a new frontier for a lot of people, but I think at this point it's a necessary one. Yeah.
I believe it is, John. Again, I'm only one piece of the puzzle, and 18 years of this has taught me that I've done well. I mean, if I look at my own personal wealth, yes, holding gold and silver has been beneficial to me over the long term. Holding real estate was beneficial, but you got to know when to hold and know when to fold them, as the song goes.
Mm-hmm.
But houses, John, are a very serious asset. They cost a fortune. They're not like gold. Gold just sits there and does nothing. It doesn't cost you a fortune to store it or to keep it. It doesn't cost you a fortune to sell it. But houses can plunge you into debt very quickly, especially when the value of that house is falling. You're happy to commit to those upgrades or to keep the house in great shape to rent it to your renters. But when the house price starts to fall, what's the value in that? You're just holding on to a falling wedge and, a hot buttered knife. Ownership costs are relentless. They pay no income. They can be painful to buy right now, especially, and remorseful to sell. I tuned on the news last night, and as I expected, you will have a rash of local news stories about husbands and wives who bought and have lost money. Last night on the local news, it was on the national. It was about the couple who had lost $140,000 since buying their house.
Wow.
Right. And they estimate between the time that they bought it and realized it was too much for them to keep, they had to turn around and sell it. They lost a net $140,000. Great experience, right? That's going to be commonplace, right? The combo of this and the global pandemic, 2% mortgages and all the cheap money that we had on the table, John, it blew the lid off of everything. And home prices in Canada and were the spot where everybody just migrated. All the horny house hunters became, moms and dads and brothers and sisters and cousins, and everyone decided a house was all the rage. So they bought it. Great. Good for you. I hope you bought it when it was, 400 and now it's 1.3 million, because it's going to go back down. It's going to, it's going to lose value. And that sucks, but it's just true. And like I said earlier, if you take a look at real home prices in Canada versus disposable income, you'll see that the divide is just like, here's disposable income over the last decade, or even since, let's say, 1980. And it just basically ticks up around where we are now, starts moving up around 2010. There's a little blip. And then real home prices, again, very parallel right up until just after 2000, 2007, 8. And all of a sudden, boom, the chart just goes straight up. And it's ridiculous because that's where we're at right now. And, when you look at it, John, with inflation eating away our savings and our buying power, you have to hold a piece of something that has tested these waters before. And that, to me, is silver and gold. Maybe not for everyone, but to me, that's silver and gold. It's done well for my clients. Our client base has been happy. And real estate takes much longer than equities to come down. And it's a hugely greater period of time to recuperate for real estate as well, which I think the new buyers, the young buyers, the 20-somethings have totally forgotten, John. It takes years, not months, like a market can recover in months. It takes years and years. And ask your parents how the 90s felt when they lost value in their homes and how long that took, a full decade to recover. There's significant current risk in the huge number of people that have variable rate mortgages. Most Canadians with VRMs have had stable monthly payments for the most part. No jumps really when rates rise, and they've not really suffered too much. But with each payment, they're financing more interest. They're financing more interest and retiring less debt. So upon renewal, which 23, 24, 25, they'll still owe a huge amount on their principal, and they'll face payments on average, which are going to be 40, 50% higher per month.
Good luck.
And now you're going to see that investors who buy real estate for investment purposes, they're going to exit the market because financing costs have risen and negative cash flows cannot be recovered through capital appreciation because homes are not rising in value, condos are not rising in value. And given that 50% of Toronto condos have been gobbled up over the last few years by people with no intention of living in them.
Yeah.
What do you see as the outcome? It's pretty simple, right? And now multiply this across the whole planet, right? Few people have been as weird, though, as Canadians when it comes to speculating so heavily on one bloody asset that costs so much and requires so much leverage. And this is a risk level humans try to avoid, but we embraced it. It still boggles my mind, in comparison, if you look at gold and silver, gold averages and has been averaging for 22 years since 2000, around 9% per year.
9%, yeah.
Killer. Silver, also around 9 to 10% per year. And like any asset, they have ups and downs, right? They have climactic moments where you can liquidate and hold that profit, swing it back into the market, maybe at a lower price. And they also have downside. They also have years in which they lose 10, 15, 20%. This is par for the course, but this is why we don't treat them as day trading assets. We don't treat them as equities. They're unique to themselves. There's a reason why banks around the world, the smartest minds and money around the world, consider them a tier 1 top tier asset and hold them as a bank's reserves against their foreign currencies. That's because they're smart. That's because they know what they're doing. You can do it too. Every Canadian out there that's listening to this, every American, every European that's listening to this podcast can do the same thing with their own wealth, become their own central bank. It might start smaller for you and only be a couple $100 at a time, but you can do it really simply. It's not hard to do. And in the next decade or so, John, the shocks we're going to witness in the system as liquidities dry up and the piper comes to be paid as due will be substantial. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm guessing stagflation based on what I see and the parallels I see to the 1970s. But heavily leveraged economies like ours in Canada, with little to show for it in terms of manufacturing and organic growth, are at great risk of loss. And I think that it's a concern for everyone, John. They got to be aware of that.
Again, 1-877-323-GOLD. Give Darren and the team a call just to have a chat. You can even start investing right there with a phone call. It's just that simple. Or get educated and decide a little later on once you've had a chance to digest the information a little bit. So, I mean, based on that chart, which I assume you're going to put up, it looks like, base camp at the bottom with disposable income and Everest at the peak, the way house prices have gone. That's pretty scary. I want to post that for people for sure. But between that and the numbers you just kind of spit out a few minutes ago, I mean, gold, technically looking pretty good, pretty good at the moment. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, John. Gold technically right now looks pretty decent. I mean, again, short-term gains don't spell out that this is a medium-term gain or that we're in a new bull phase where we're going to take off like a solid rock. But big GDP data almost makes it certain that gold is going to make a move here. In the US, those 2 quarters of negative GDP data, technically that's your, textbook definition of recession, and nobody wants to admit it. It's amazing the people I read that I respect on a daily basis, and they won't admit that there's a recession or that we're going to hit one. The talk of the town is still that we might have a recession. Don't know if we will, but we might. Yeah. The definition of recession this time around, as we said on many shows ago, is going to be wholly different. It's going to look different, feel different, because so much data is hidden from us or changed or altered or readjusted and released to the public later on in the month. And I guess at this point in time, John, the majority of Canadian public just don't give a shit. They don't care about the data. They go on living their day-to-day lives. They're figuring out, and it's juxtaposed against the news of lots of jobs out there, kids being able to take their pick of jobs. It's all shit paying jobs. I mean, these aren't career positions, right? They're not opening up the gates to say, hey, come on aboard. All the major sectors are going to suffer losses. I mean, look at Shopify.
Right? Yeah.
Shopify, another perfect example.
1.2 billion down, man.
Yeah. People are not thinking the same way they did during the COVID times. So the Amazon stocks and the shop and get it to home stocks are going to fall. I mean, This is just the mentality change that we're going through right now. And we're realizing on the other side of this that we still need to make an income. We still need to make, decisions that are smart for us. We need career positions, but a lot of the jobs that are available are low paying jobs. I mean, let's just face it, this is what it is, and we can't keep up with it. And there's lots of reasons for it. I'm not here to tout what the significance of that is, but there is in gold and silver, fortunately, a short-term pattern right now of higher highs and higher lows. And gold in particular is back above its 18-day moving average, which is a sign that the gold market does want to rally. Now, I'm paying close attention to this, but odds are it strongly favors a bump if the lows of this last couple of days hold. And what I think we have to look forward to right now is end of year. Gold and silver by end of year look to recapture the zone they were in just a month ago. Doesn't take much to get them there. That's 1,900 for gold. It's 150 bucks up or 140 bucks up, and silver back into the 24, 25 range. That would make me very happy. However, I think by spring, if we get this next run, as I anticipate we will, and additional announcements of higher interest rates and more hikes, this will coincide with a movement in both gold and silver that'll take them both higher into the spring. I would comfortably say I'd love to see gold in the 2,200 range. I think that's fair. While I comfortably would say that silver is capable of $30 to $40 range. It's going to have some help from investors. We're going to have to see some people exit and bring their money over to these new markets. But balance and diversification are the key, John, always to being successful in these markets. Having the right combination of paper assets against hard assets is going to get you so much further than just having all paper. And you have to do it yourself. This has to be self-directed. This has to be a journey you take yourself on to find out more about. Don't trust my opinion of things. Don't trust anyone's opinion of things. Do your own research and look at what the numbers tell you. The numbers don't lie. And you'll see what we see, which is a very, very weak economy built solely on the value of homes here in Canada that has lost one of the four pillars it's standing on in housing, and other ones are going to follow. And it may look and feel differently. So remember all those things, take them into consideration, but make certain you take a look at the story of gold and silver because it's a smart one. It's a good one to own.
We always take this in for a landing at the end, Darren, each week, and that is by telling us and telling our viewers and listeners, for that matter, how exactly we get that portfolio open. What are some options for getting these hard assets into your realm of money making assets, right?
Well, basically, John, it's the easiest thing you can do. Start with the website. Just go to deltaharbor.com and take a look around. Get yourself familiar with the landscape. It's a fairly easy site to navigate, so you should have no problem getting educated. Call us. There's no strings attached to a phone call. If you're out there and you're listening and you know us or you've dealt with us, share that with your friends because it's the easiest phone call to make. We don't twist arms. There's no barrage of endless emails being sent to you with all kinds of bullshit in there touting how amazing it is to buy right this second. Right. Decisions about wealth should be made cautiously, and they should be made using data and the right amount of input. That should come from professional companies, people that are experts in their arena, not fly-by-nights, not guys that start a kiosk in the middle of the mall and sell some coins, move into mortgages. Right. Well, yeah, I could say a lot about that, which I won't, but a lot of my friends survived because they decided to go in a mortgage game, and they're not going to thrive anytime soon in the near term. But that's the starting point, John, the website. Direct home delivery, buy it online, shop like you're buying your food or you're buying some clothes, you're buying you're shopping online for something that you need or want. You're at Bass Pro Shops, you're picking up a fishing rod. You can do the same thing with an ounce of gold. No problem. Lots of payment options there, really self-explanatory. We'll get it to you safe and sound, insured, and right to your door, we promise. And the communication to make sure you know it's coming and getting to you, second to none in the world. It's world class. I guarantee it. I'm the owner of the company, and it would never, ever be anything but. It's the most important thing to me that you get your product delivered directly into your hands. The second option for those that don't want to take that home approach is to store it. We have a vault. You can put it in a vault. That's no problem at all. And that vault is easy to access. You can go and see your product, get your inventory reports, know your product's there. And if you like the idea of storage and of owning gold and silver, put them both together, put it into a storage vault account, maybe even put it into the registered accounts, which is another option. You can do RSPs, TFSAs, and yes, you can use existing ones. If you're with another institution, doesn't matter. Either you can open up a brand new one and put more money in based on what you're allowed to contribute, or you can bring the one from that institution over to Delta and we'll help you migrate your way through it into a nice, fresh, new self-directed account, give you all the tools to be successful and be with you every step of the way as experts in the gold and silver arena. In addition to that, we also, John, have the Delta Vault account. For those buying, we'll be sending out small brochures to let you know more about this. Should be coming out with all of your packages. We just received the updated brochures this week, but we're happy to send them out. If you'd like one, just contact us anytime. And that talks about bulk bullion. And what is bulk bullion? It means instead of worrying about having to buy a 10-ounce silver bar or a 100-ounce silver bar, or which one's right for me, do I buy a coin versus a bar? Let us do all the work. We buy all the silver, physical and gold, put it into a vault with our partner. We make sure that it's always audited product and that what you're holding is always there and in place. And all you have to do is tell us what you want to own and how much you want to spend. And we take all those high premiums away. We give you the lowest possible industry standard premium that we can give you, which on silver is around 30 to 40 cents per ounce from spot. In gold,
dollars.
That's right. And in gold,
yeah, cents would be a real bargain, but dollars an ounce. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. 30 to 40 cents per dollar. Yes, that's right. And we basically, with gold, it's $10 to $12 over spot. And basically, it's an easy account to do, and it's collateral. So that serves as your ability to A, borrow against, and B, if you want to borrow and buy more product, you can. It's your product, it's your account. And if you want to use your product in that bulk bullion account, we've set it up so that you can also go ahead. If you're a person with means and you're able to do it and you have the disposable income and this is right for you and you've done all that research to determine if this is right for you and you've got the money aside as dry powder in the bank, why not? You can use it, no questions asked. And it's a brilliant way to invest when you're thinking about getting into this market. So all those options are on the table, John. But first, get plugged in, get to the social media, get to the website, and just call. I mean, I'm easy to talk to. My clients will tell you. You can access me, any of my partners, my team. You can speak directly. If I have a minute, I'm going to speak with any new investor, big or small, doesn't matter. And I want people out there listening to know that the importance of gold and silver is second to none. It deserves a place and has earned the right to be at the table in your wealth strategy decisions. And I want to make sure people know that. So we look forward to introducing this to thousands of people on a monthly basis. And you're going to be one of them. So if you're paying attention, we want to thank you for listening. I know we're coming to the end, John. And I want to encourage people, as always, we do almost every show, get out and support your local food bank, please. It's important. It's a part of the community that I think most people don't realize needs to be supported more frequently. And you may be helping out a neighbor and you didn't even know it. So get out there and support your local food bank. And we want to thank everyone for listening once again.
You bet, guys. Moving on. Here's how you do that. The phone number, just as Darren said, make that call, 1-877-323-GOLD. Really simple online, deltaharbor.com, harbor with the U, and you can start investing, as Darren mentioned at the top of that last segment, is you can just go online and begin buying on your own through the e-store, or give them a call and start looking at other avenues to invest, including registered accounts, which I love, by the way. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, of course, and the YouTube channel, all under Delta Harbor with the U. And we will catch you next time on the Hard Money Podcast.